don't give up. You've never failed until you quit. There's no exception to that. As long as you keep going, you will succeed. Period.
Welcome to Divot, the community for people making their mark on the world. Every week, I sit down with the greatest minds in business, tech, sports, and entertainment to uncover the moments, decisions, and lessons that shape their journey so you can shape yours. Go to divot.org to learn more. Subscribe at YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Divot.
Today's guest is changing the way the world experiences storytelling. Neal Harmon is the co-founder and CEO of Angel, the company behind titles like Sound of Freedom, Dry Bar Comedy, Sketch, and The Chosen, along with feature films embraced by billions worldwide. Launching in 2013 to create films for his children to be proud of, they've raised over $100 million and built a community powered by 1.5 million guild members who watch, feedback, and share the films. Neal started on a dairy farm in Idaho and later co-founded Harmon Brothers, the agency behind viral ads for AuraBrush and the Purple Mattress. Today, as a father of 10, he's redefined entertainment with a deep purpose. Hope you enjoy it. Neal, where are we? Tell us about this amazing space.
Well, this is Angel's headquarters, and we're in the Dry Bar Comedy Studio. This stage has been seen over 6 billion times over the internet, and we've had over 700 comedians come from all over the world to perform here. Yeah. And the audience gets to decide which comedians are good enough to be on Dry Bar's platform.
How does that work? Comedians generally are kind of known for saying anything about anything, but at Dry Bar, it's sort of clean enough that you could watch it with your kids or in any setting or scenario.
So Dry Bar's catchphrase is funny for everyone. And the initial idea was there are comedians who try to be clean and aren't very funny. And then there are comedians that are really, really funny, but don't know how to be clean. And if we can help those really funny comedians understand the audience well enough that they respond and do a set that's funny for everyone, like that mom can watch at home and not be embarrassed that her kids are listening in, then it would be a larger market. And sure enough, that's proved to be true.
I think at Christmas we sat down and watched Nate Bargatze's new special that came out, and the whole family's there. It's like grandparents, kids, everybody, and it's sort of counterintuitive, I think, with content where you think, well, it just has to be this way. It has to have, swearing. It has to have these kinds of stories, and it can't be without it because you get so conditioned to seeing that or hearing that. But actually, you all have just totally flipped the model, and comedy is a great example of it because there's almost no clean comedy. It seems like, at least the top people. There's nothing clean. I can't watch it with my little kids. There's no way I can watch it, and I can't even talk about it. And yet you sort of flip that model, and then you found this audience like that. Well, I mean, people overlooked that they were there. They're ready to listen and watch. But how did you find these people? How did you know that billions of people would watch this kind of content?
So have you heard of the book, The User Method?
No.
So the premise of that book is that the biggest companies in the world were led by people solving their own problem. So you've got the Google founders who were solving a search problem at Stanford. The Airbnb founders were trying to make rent and put down an air mattress in their flat, and to make the rent, and then started Airbnb, air mattresses and bread and breakfast. And then Mark Zuckerberg was trying to experiment with making friends, but people were solving their own problems in order to, start a much larger enterprise a lot of other people wanted. that's really what's happened here at Angel and Dry Bar is we're just solving a problem for our families and for our kids and our grandchildren. And it turns out there's a lot of people who want us to solve that problem, a lot. And there's been a lot of research done since on what we're doing, and we're just wanting to do something so that media was better for our children.
It does seem like people have taken interest. You have New York Times writing about it and the Babylon Bee. Like you got the sort of full spectrum of people. For those that don't know, what is Angel?
Angel is a growing community of people who are trying to make the world a better place with media. So the unique thing about Angel is that we've flipped the traditional centralized greenlighting process. So in Hollywood, there are people in New York and California who greenlight what gets made. And they've studied it for a long time, and they think that they know how to taste make for the rest of the world. And Angel's model is to flip that on its head and to let the audience be the greenlight committee. And so we do this through a community called the Angel Guild. And the Angel Guild, they get to vote on everything that comes to Angel. And we can't release anything. As the co-founder and CEO, I can't release this episode onto Angel unless they first give approval that it's good enough to be here. And that just fundamentally changes the way that the entire industry has worked previously. And the results are astounding. Like Angel is the highest audience rated distributor in the world right now. Our average Angel Original audience score is 93%. And then you've got Paramount and Disney and HBO and A24, and Netflix is actually like an average audience score of 60. And that's the difference between listening really closely to what your audience has to say and not.
It's not that you're just really good at picking the right ideas. It's this feedback loop that you're getting from the guild, and it's kind of like making or trusting the audience to be the best sort of film critics. Is that kind of the idea?
You've interviewed Clayton Christensen before, and this idea of jobs to be done. So we see Angel as what we're doing. We're helping our audience with a certain job to be done. Like I've met in this business so many billionaires who are making movies. It's like once they become billionaires, they're like, I want to make a movie. And there's not a billionaire gene that makes people want to make a movie. Everybody actually wants to leave a legacy for their posterity and for the culture and to be remembered. And what the Angel Guild does is it lets regular people pay $20, and then they get to be part of the voting process. They get to interact directly with the filmmakers. They get to leave feedback, and they get to help make movies. And they don't have to be a billionaire. That's the job that we're solving. Yeah, it's really exciting for people to get on the other side of the screen and other side of the camera and actually be part of that process.
I think we've all had that experience where you're going to go to a movie and then you go to Rotten Tomatoes and you look at the critics' reviews and it's like terrible. And then you look at the audience reviews and they're like, this is a great movie. And you're trying to make sense of like, who do I trust? Do I trust the audience? Is that real? Do the critics know better? And then you go and you're like, this was an awesome movie. And the critics like panned it and, said it was terrible. And so I think like instinctively people kind of can relate to this experience of what you've tapped into, where you're trusting the audience to tell you what you like, what they like and don't like. And how does this review process work for a filmmaker who I create my film and I think it's amazing, and then I bring it to Angel, and what happens then? How does the feedback loop work?
But let's back up and look at the critics versus the audience. So if you take the whole database of Rotten Tomatoes and take the critic scores and the audience scores, The critic scores have zero correlation with box office. Zero. There is no correlation whatsoever. The audience score, very, very high correlation with box office. So if you're if you are here in the media business, if you're in Hollywood to be able to tell a story, get a return, to be able to tell another story, it's better to hear from the audience sooner and to figure out what they need sooner. And that's what's happening at Angels. Now, there's some filmmakers who are part of the traditional process, and they'll hide what they're doing for as long as possible until it becomes their perfect vision, and then they're ready for the audience to experience what they've envisioned. But there are others that are catching. I was just at the set for Homestead yesterday, and Jason Orvis was who was with the writing team, and they were talking about how they've caught the vision of the Guild to the point that they're actually sending out their scripts to a select section of the Guild and asking people to rate pieces of the script, and they're getting data and feedback at the script stage, and then they're going to get it again at the rough cut stage, and then again at the final cut stage. Wow. Each time with a different sample of the Guild, each time with new statistically significant data that helps them make decisions. And Tuttle Twins, they've been doing the same thing. Like, they've been putting animatics. So Tuttle Twins is an animated show that teaches about freedom and economics, and they'll take the early scripts, they'll put them in little children's storybooks, send them out to families to read them and get feedback. Then they'll take the animatic, which is just like storyboard drawings and scratch voices, not even the real actors, put them in the Guild, look for drop-off points in the watch times. They'll look for feedback inside the audience to understand where they're confusing people, where things aren't connecting, where not making sense. And these are the visionaries of how to make media in this day and age, and they're using this platform in a way that gives them a huge competitive advantage over somebody who's just, producing a show for a network or for release on Netflix, where they just don't know until they release it how the audience is going to respond to it.
There's like this upper echelon of directors and creatives in Hollywood that are very, very small group of people who have these audiences where I'll just go see anything they've done and be part of it. It seems like the vast majority of filmmakers and people in entertainment, they don't have their own followings. It's really about, is this content interesting and do audiences want to gravitate towards it? And you've really, that's why we're sitting here in Provo, Utah, of all places, and you've created one of the largest film studios in the world. And it seems like it's because you've kind of taken some of these things that worked in tech around feedback loops, sort of iterate quickly, I'm not smarter than the user, and then you've brought that into this sort of business model and industry that hasn't been disrupted since it started, 100 years ago or so. Do you feel like you've sort of fused the best parts of tech with the best parts of entertainment? Or do you feel like it's more of, we've just stayed close to the customer and we've sort of focused on the customer, and that's where this has led us to be?
I'd say yes. I wrote the very first version of VidAngel. I programmed it myself for my own family. Wasn't to do a business, but I grew up in the tech world. Startup Grind was one of my favorite places to attend. Been to Silicon Valley many times, studied things that people were learning in that world and the way that they operate. And one thing that I really liked about Silicon Valley was just how open to ideas and to testing that community was. And it went against the grain of the natural state of man. It seems like naturally people want to hoard things or keep them to themselves, whereas there it was just about developing and sharing ideas and bouncing off ideas, and a startup culture that definitely had a big impact. And we, one of the founders of PayPal, Luke Nosek, is a managing director of GigaFund, which invested in Angel. And the PayPal, they call it the PayPal Mafia, right? Elon Musk came out of that, and many other entrepreneurs came out of the PayPal Mafia. That's the kind of culture that we aspire to here. Like, we celebrate here at Angel when somebody leaves to do their own startup. And then sometimes they'll come back even after their startup fails, and we still celebrate that. So that culture of learning and an improvement and iteration is part of who we are, just in terms of like how we operate as a business. But we definitely, like, as founders, came at this saying, we're the audience, our needs are not being met, please listen to us. And so how do we solve this problem in a way that the audience gets listened to? And that's the driving foundation of our business, and it is to listen to the audience and give the audience a way to give feedback to filmmakers through technology that makes the experience for the audience in the future better, and also that makes society a better place. I mean, that we unabashedly, we have a North Star. It's to amplify light, and we just want society to be a better place for our grandchildren.
You have more than 1.5 million guild members. Why is this concept of a guild and being part of this sort of global army of filmmakers, why is this resonating so much with people that you're growing so quickly in this way?
I think that there was something fundamentally broken about the way that Hollywood was operating, and see it as a broken feedback loop. So right now Netflix is like got the market cap of almost all the old studios combined. So they've moved the old studios, and they're part of the MPAA. They've moved the old studio system online, but it operates pretty much the same way. It's just moved online. But you got people in New York and California who are making decisions on Netflix and what gets published, and then Netflix pays an upfront check. They take the risk off the table for the filmmaker. If they get greenlit, and it's like, here's your check, go make it, and you get a little margin when you deliver it. And then the filmmaker makes it, and at that point, their customer is not the audience. Their customer is Netflix, right? Because Netflix pays them their check, and how the audience responds to what they make doesn't matter once they've been greenlit by Netflix. This is true of Prime as well. I don't mean to single Netflix out. Netflix is an incredible company. But the point is that the system is busted when the filmmaker gets greenlit. Then they're thinking only one thing is, I need to get this made. I need to make it as good as I can so I get to make another production. And if I could get an Oscar in that process, then I'll probably get a bigger paycheck next time. And that's an insular feedback loop. Where's the audience there? That's Netflix's responsibility, or Prime's responsibility is the audience, but it's not the filmmaker's responsibility. And so now what do you get? You get a bunch of people who are subscribed to Netflix who, some show shows up that their executives have greenlit, and everyone gets upset because the show offends them, doesn't represent them, and they don't want to pay Netflix anymore. I remember the huge thing over Cuties. Like, that was a big deal. Lots of people, millions of people were canceling their Netflix subscription because they were so offended by that production. So people don't feel heard. The audience doesn't feel heard, and then the filmmakers aren't accountable to the audience. And that's what the Angel model is solving, is that it's helping people to be heard. It's not a platitude. It's actually we can't get it through unless they say they're good with it. And then we've got filmmakers who only win because the audience responds. It's a merit-based system where you get paid, like the checks that are coming out of Angel, the royalty checks. There was some people in Nashville that were saying to us, everybody's saying on the street that you guys are inflating your royalties to to dupe people into coming and working with Angel. And we laughed and we're like, that's a pretty good rumor. I mean, it's not true. We're just paying out the royalties based on people's performance in the system. But when we can pay out more royalties than a Netflix contract for 3 years in a quarter, people don't believe it, but it's real. And so I think that's why the movement's growing, is because people are feeling heard. They're seeing the fruits of being heard, and the filmmakers are bending over backwards, just like the dry bar comedians are bending over backwards to serve an audience. They're trying to understand the audience, and everybody who's coming to Angel is saying, we're here to serve the audience. And it shows up in the feeling of every story that comes out on Angel. And so I'm not sure. I look back at the early growth days of Netflix, and unless I misunderstand it, like, we're growing faster and Netflix was an incredible growth story. And I think that's, it's just responding to both sides of the market and creating a marketplace.
One of the problems that a lot of ideas have to get off the ground is that they can't find the audience. And when people ask me, of all the people I've met in Silicon Valley or startups and entrepreneurs around the world, like, who really has marketing figured out, I almost always talk about you and your co-founders, because it's not just with Angel what you've done to get your product in front of people, the right people, but it was these other products that you all helped launch before, whether it was AuraBrush or whether it was purple mattresses or whether it was, this poopery, smelling thing. Like, you all have helped, you kind of found great products before this, and you helped launch those and really find audience for them in ways that I've never seen before or since. And it's been amazing to see you kind of put all that energy towards just Angel. But when you think about building an audience and finding the right people, like, how do you go about getting that started, and where do you find them, and what is your process for marketing and sort of building, this sort of early momentum when you're starting from zero?
Just a quick bit of history. You mentioned AuraBrush. So AuraBrush, we got onto YouTube's platform way early, clear back when Chad Hurley was still there, and Google had just acquired them.
2006, 2007, maybe 8.
So Google acquired them in 2005 or 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they launched the first ad platform 2009, I think. Mm-hmm. That's when they first started showing ads on YouTube. Before then, it was just growth. And we were the first to buy those ads. So we got a little bit of a break that way. And we were the first company to make money on YouTube. And then Chad and the Google people, they invited me out to speak at a sales conference. And then the engineering team came out here to Provo, Utah, and met with Jeff, my co-founder, about what we needed in the ad platform. And they came up with the Skip ad button together. And Jeffrey was like, if somebody can see an ad and show, if you can show the ad, it can be as long as it doesn't have to be a 15-second spot or a 30 or a minute like the old television networks. Just create a skip ad button and let people survive on merit, right? On whether or not they're able to garner attention. That innovation allowed us to do all the other brands you're talking about, where Poopery or Squatty Potty had its rainbow pooping unicorn, and it was the perfect hook. It had a visual hook that in those first few seconds before they click skip, you got them, and they're into this thing. Same thing with Purple Mattress. That if you look at all those ads, they were designed, they were engineered after that. And so what we did was we would, like on Poopery, we tested the title for Poopery, the thumbnail, the intro, the outro, the call to action. And once we tested all of those variations, and then once we found the winning variations, we put them together, and the campaign took off. So I think in that is like the seed of what the answer to your question, which is to test early, test often. Never expect that when you have an idea, that the market's going to understand your idea initially. You really have to work at helping the market understand your idea and find the market and find that product market fit through testing. And that's expensive. It's grueling. It takes tons of work. It seems like huge success when you see it after all the meat has been ground in the background. But it just takes tons of work to hone the message.
How do you know when you've reached the point of we've nailed it? What are the indicators, the metrics, the moments for you to say like, yep, now we're ready, let's go mass market with this?
It just depends on if you can spend $1 in getting awareness and you can make back more than $1 after costs. It's super simple. And Angel is, counterintuitive that we're doing Angel after selling AuraBrush, Squatty Potty, the Purple Mattress, all these things. But actually, every single film we launch in theaters, it's like doing a startup in 60 to 90 days, scaled to tens of millions of dollars, over and over and over again. And so it's really it's like a startup incubator here all the time. And we're going through that message testing and process over and over again. And we have a budget that we can test in and an amount of money that we're going to spend on a film. And depending on how well we're able to test into a scaling message, it determines the success of the project. So if you can, if you invest $1 million into scaling a project and you find breakthroughs in that process that allow you to scale to 5, then great. Or if you find breakthroughs in that process that allow you to scale to 20, great. Or maybe you just get cut off at the $1 million or $2 million of marketing spend, and that's it for that project. That's sometimes how it happens. And it's a process of trial and error, and you take notes from what you learned last time and try to implement them in the next time.
You've had Dry Bar, The Chosen, Sounds of Freedom, now Sketch. Like, these are very different kinds of projects and pieces of entertainment. Like, can you do that? What is the common thread between all these things that makes it so the guild is getting the kind of content, the kind of things that they're excited about? Is it just that it's accessible and it's clean? Are there other elements of it that make it so that people feel like I can watch, somebody do stand up, but I also want to watch, this sort of drama, but I also want to watch this animated cartoon? What are the threads that bring all these things together?
Every guild member makes a pledge before they vote. And their pledge is, I pledge to choose excellent entertainment that is true, honest, noble, just, authentic, lovely, or admirable. And this is the bar. So excellence has as much of an impact on anything as at Angel. If something's not well produced, it's going to fall on its face. And then the second thing is that it needs to be centered in principles. So we've got an adventure, basically Inside Out meets Jurassic Park in Sketch. We have a child trafficking movie in Sound of Freedom. We have a movie about a nun in Cabrini. We have a movie about 4 Afghan girls who won the international robotics competition. The common thread is what we say as amplifying light, and that's what that pledge is achieving. It's helping choose things that make society a better place, but are really excellent. And so Angel's become known for having excellent level of production and excellent storytelling, but also that you come away from an Angel project and you just feel like a better person, or like you can do better, or like you want to make society a better place.
In the early iterations of the company and the content, the business model. You had this service where you kind of take existing content and you could eliminate some of the words and types of content that you didn't frankly want. This is VidAngel at the beginning of the company. You end up having this sort of lawsuit by some of these content creators, sort of led by or Disney. Startups are so hard that nobody survives normal things. There's it's like a 98% fail rate. Even companies that get venture funding, it's like in the high 90% fail. So let alone people that don't get a VC to back them. So you all raise a little bit of funding, but you have this sort of huge thing happening where one of the biggest companies in the world comes in, this kind of small company here in Provo, Utah, and says, hey, we're suing you, and then you get this judgment against you for tens of millions of dollars. It's easy now. It's all resolved. You figured it out. We're sitting all these years past that. But just kind of going back to that place, as you go back and think about it, I think a lot of people would have said, this is it. Shut it down, call it good, go do something else. And you all sort of navigated a way through that into the sort of next iteration of what Angel ultimately is now. And I just wonder if you could just, as you look back on that, as you think back on that, what sticks out to you about how you all were able to find a way through what look like from the outside, a sort of impossible task of the companies being able to survive such a huge, difficult thing?
So we started VidAngel with our own money. I think we had $100,000 between us, and we wanted to go it alone. We felt like we had enough experience that we could figure it out. And then we got a lawsuit threat, not from Disney, but just from a local company that had a DVD player that would skip stuff the way we were trying to do it on streaming. And so we went out, raised money, and we're like, the only way we're going to make this work is because we don't have enough money to do a lawsuit and to build this thing. So now we need to have enough capital to get through this. So we took some capital. It wasn't a lot by Silicon Valley standards. I think we had $600,000 in seed funding, but it was enough that when that lawsuit, began and we were trying to solve the business problems, we had enough money to do that. If we wouldn't have taken that money before all of that happened, and before we encountered a lot of the challenges that we didn't know we were going to face on this process, I think we would have thrown in the towel. If it was just our own money, we would have thrown in the towel. But once we had taken people's money, people that we, in fact, one of them we met at Startup Grind. That's an interesting fact that helped fund us, Paul Ostrom. And once we had taken this money, we're like, we have to see this through. And so we iterated on the business just to get it to work. This is way before Disney sued us. There were things that were happening to prevent our business from working on a technological standpoint, a contractual standpoint. We were trying to work with Google to get the content, trying to work with YouTube to get the content. And it just felt like we were hitting walls everywhere. And then we got with a Hollywood attorney, showed him the problem that we were facing and the way that the laws there was a law called the Family Movie Act that got passed, and we thought we could operate a business under the Family Movie Act. Anyway, when we got sued by Disney, our customers volunteered to just donate money. We had tens of thousands of people just donate money to help fight this lawsuit. And we're like, this just doesn't happen. And then we launched a Regulation A crowdfunding under the Jobs Act. And we raised almost $11 million in 5 days from 8,000 families. And immediately thereafter, the lawsuit even got more bitter and worse. And Disney we tried to settle with them early on, and they weren't interested in settling, and they threatened to come after Jeffrey and me personally.
How did that feel to have, one
Jeffrey,
of the largest companies in the world saying, I'm going to sue you personally? Like, was it hard to sleep? Was it hard to work? Was it?
Jeffrey and I both went home to our wives and just said, are you prepared to lose everything for this? Because we're not sure that, like, we're trying to settle with these people. I don't know that there's a way out. Like, and our attorney at the time said, normally, if people are smart, they'll put like 3 walls and then provide a way to escape, so somebody can escape with some grace. But in this instance, like, Disney was putting in all 4 walls, and they were just completely trying to crush us and make an example out of us. And that was tough. So I don't know if I could say that there's a ton of virtue. At one point we kept going because we had taken other people's money. Then we kept going because our customers saved us, and they wanted us to keep fighting. And then we fought just because we realized if we gave up, like, they were coming after everything, and there was no way except for through this mess. And so we just had to keep fighting as though there was going to be a way out. And sure enough, there was, right? There was COVID hit. Disney started losing $25 to $50 million a day. We filed our appeal. There was an appeal of the injunction that you and I had lunch over at one point, but we fired our appeal on the main case, and the management at Disney changed, and a new attorney came in who was clearly, like, there to settle, to try to figure this out after we had filed the appeal. And within 2 weeks of filing the appeal, I think, is when we got to a settlement. And so how did we get through that? It was just a mixture of motivations, and it was a survival instinct. It was our customers coming to our aid. It was our honor in protecting the investments that had been put into us. It was a combination of those things. And to this day, Derek, we shouldn't have gotten through that. And yet we did. And it's a miracle.
And really, it's very unique that your customers have played such a critical role in actually saving you and keeping you alive. And it is kind of ironic that of all companies, it kind of goes after you. You think like family friendly, it's like, making family content, Disney, and it's like, and then your customers, who are probably also consumers of that content too, are like, we need this to exist in the world. I was with you just randomly. We're not having lunch every month. I was in town, and I came to meet with you and Jeffrey, your co-founder.
I think that's the only time we've ever done lunch
I think
together.
It is the only time we've done lunch together. And we were sitting there, and just around the corner from here, and we're talking about what's happening in this sort of, I think this, Peel and other things were going on. So it still was like, hey, there's sort of a chance here. And I remember just sitting there. We had a great, conversation, and it was pretty light and positive. And then you got a text or an email or something, and it was like, the news just came in. They've cited against us on the judge on the injunction. And we kind of went quiet as you kind of like were reading and absorbing it. And I remember watching you and kind of trying to understand, just empathize just a little bit of like what just hit you. I could see it hitting you in real time. And then to watch it over the next, years and months, and to see your customers literally be your angels, and come in and invest in your product and invest in this sort of mission that you were putting together, and to do it with such force and such overwhelming, support. And then to see you all actually survive it and find a way to navigate it, which nothing about you, but just the circumstance. I didn't think anybody could navigate it. I was like, I just watched this company die in real time, and it was terrible. And then somehow, like, you all got off the operating table and found a heartbeat, got yourself a heartbeat, and got yourself out of the ICU, and then started walking around the hospital, and then to the point of, like, now it's just like this sprint. And it's one of the most, of all the entrepreneurs I've met, of all the stories I've heard or read about, it is, whenever people ask me, like, what's the craziest, most resilient thing you've ever seen somebody do, I always talk about what you all have done here at Angel, because, you know, I don't think people can understand, I certainly don't, the pressure, the situation you all were in, and you figured out a way through it. And almost, I think 99.9999% of people would have given up, and you all didn't. And now many years later, there are probably still some scars there that you'll never forget. But it's very inspiring to see, because, you know, we all have situations where the world feels like it's totally against us, and we have to decide, are we going to give in or not? And it doesn't always work out, but, you know, in this case, like, you all overcame something just unbelievable.
The injunction, every attorney that we talked to expected, because Disney's waited a year to come after us, that Disney was going to lose the injunction. And then they won. And then we appealed that to the Ninth Circuit, because we thought there's no way, because all the attorneys were saying we should have won that. And then they won the appeal. And basically the court said, you know what, there's two legitimate interpretations of this law. This is novel. We've never addressed this in court before. There's VidAngel's interpretation and Disney's. And VidAngel's leaves a big hole in copyright law. So, you know, we just can't go that route. But I fully expected, like, on this path, that we were going to be able to overturn that injunction, or that we weren't going to have an injunction. And so when it didn't go the way that I was expecting, it was a big blow. But I would say the fact that you showed up, had lunch with us, and we got the news at that time, for me was just one of those little just mercies of life, that I just felt like, I felt confused. Like, I'm like, this is not at all turning out the way I thought it would. The legal system doesn't operate the way that I thought it would. And, but I felt like, oh, but Derek came all the way from California. He reached out to us and had lunch. He's trying to uplift us and support us right at that time. And for me, I'm just like, it's going to be all right. We're going to be able to figure out a way forward. And I don't think it was an accident that you were there at that time to help us through it. Like, your little bit of that story was adding to our ability to get through what we were going through. So thank you for.
I appreciate that. I think I paid for lunch that day, so I recall. I didn't play much role in anything else, but I did cover lunch for one day. Let me ask you about another sort of incredible part of your history, and also difficult, which is, you know, you one of the things Angel's known for is The Chosen, this incredible series about the sort of the New Testament and the life of Jesus Christ. It's been seen by hundreds of millions of people. You worked really closely on this with the sort of film producers, sort of hand in hand for many years. More recently, you know, there's been a lot written about, you know, sort of breakup between you and the producers, and now, you know, The Chosen isn't on Angel anymore. And I wonder, you know, one, having such a huge thing, again, be part of it, and now it's not part of it. The company's changed a lot since then too, but when you think about, you know, sort of going through that experience and where, you know, that sits now with, you know, kind of at the next phase of everybody kind of going their separate ways, like, you know, what are your takeaways from it? And, you know, how is Angel different when you started when The Chosen first started with you versus say how, where you're headed now?
Jeffrey and I, loved The Chosen when we first encountered the project and felt very moved to help Dallas get his vision out to the world. And we're also being sued by Disney. And our attorney, our general counsel, we were planning to put up the money to start The Chosen personally, because Angel, or VidAngel at the time wasn't able to do that. And our attorney said, well, he said, there's a small chance that if they're suing you personally, that
this could get wrapped up into it.
Yeah, they could get a hold of that project. And we're like, that's not okay. We're not going to allow that to happen. So we didn't put, even though we co-founded and helped put together all the people that would actually fund the project, our name's not on it as executive producers. It's, we contributed to the creative process, the branding process, the naming process, all of that, but we're not part of it anymore. We've parted ways, and we've amicably resolved the disputes between us. And now The Chosen's it's streaming on Amazon Prime. I think I'll just leave it at this. Disney was hard. It was a lot to get through. And I lost quite a bit of hair during that process. It wasn't even close to what this experience was like going through The Chosen separation. And my hair grayed and I aged a lot more. So it's one thing when you have a clear enemy and your customers are getting behind you. It's another when people who are your best friends, when you part ways with your best friends over a dispute, it's a totally different thing. And it was really, really, really hard. I can't recreate that emotion anymore because I don't feel it right now, Derek, where we're standing. Because this is a history for me now. The Chosen separation, has been such a blessing in disguise for our company. We've rebuilt the company entirely because The Chosen at one point was 95% of our revenue, and by the time we parted ways, it was 10% of our revenue. And in the interim process, we moved it from a pay it forward innovation around The Chosen that allowed The Chosen to grow and reach the world to building the Angel Guild and our greenlighting process and our community that allows lots of filmmakers to benefit from what's happening here. And it's been such a blessing in disguise. And we wish The Chosen very well. We hope it can make it to all 7 seasons. And as I actually just finished seasons 4 and 5 recently, just to enjoy the show that team's putting together. And it's a part of the process. It's not without pain, but the pain is very far away now, and we're so focused on amplifying light of all different other kinds of stories in the world that we just wish them well, and that's just sometimes how it goes, and it's okay.
Is there something about this industry that's sort of by its nature litigious?
Oh yeah.
Is it just sort of ingrained into?
Yeah. So this is a business where people are trying to capture emotion with devices, right? With camera, with audio, with film. We're trying to capture emotion, put it in a bottle, and share it with the rest of the world. The ability to create that emotion is so unique that it comes with it emotionally charged relationships as well. And the more that, after The Chosen situation, we had a discussion inside the company about maybe we should back off and do it like the traditional studios where the filmmaker brings the project and we're like, see you later. We're taking care of it from here instead of you engaging, because it's so painful to engage and to love the filmmakers and to love the project and then to have there be conflict. So painful. But it's out of that pain, it's out of that struggle that you make and do something superb. It's just, it has to happen. So you remove the pain and you remove the fruits of that pain. And so, we've decided to continue to, like, you look at Sketch and what the team has put into Sketch. The Sketch project, which is, open.
Tell us about the film.
Yeah, so Sketch is like a mixture between Jurassic Park meets Inside Out. So it's like Amblin Entertainment and Pixar had a baby, and super fun. It's got almost a perfect critic score, which is very unusual for Angel. The audience score will come out opening weekend, but it's a really, really, really fun film. But in this film, there's a girl who's suffering from grief, and she draws pictures to deal with the grief, and they find a magical pond, and they accidentally bring these pictures to life, and they terrorize the town, and the family must come together to solve this problem. And it's very symbolic, super funny, super adventurous. And our team went and built out an entire, app system where kids can go and draw stuff. They can take pictures of their drawings, and then they come to life through the power of AI, and they come alive on the screen. And then we let the very top, like the director pick some of the kids' creations, and they're in the credits of the film. So they'll show up at the end of the movie. And I went to an early screening with my 8-year-old, and he just shouted out in the credits, "They chose my monster!" And I didn't know they had chosen his monster. Anyway.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. So, but our team just completely, like when the filmmakers came here to visit, there's these little creatures called eiders that are in the movie that are like little spiders with one eye, and they crawl around there. And we 3D printed a bunch of eiders, and the office was decked out in eiders. And the filmmakers came, and we just had this incredible coming together experience, and our team was completely throwing themselves into this project, just the way we threw ourselves into The Chosen. And I'm just glad that we haven't lost that passion.
Yeah. It's interesting how you talk about the emotion in filmmaking and just being creative. And I think everyone can relate at some level to like creating something. It could be a film that you edited on your phone. It could be something you drew, or your child draws something. But how many times has somebody come to show you like, "Hey, look what I made. Look at this video I made," or "Look at this thing," and it's like, it's so deeply personal, and it's like it hits every creative bone in your body, and that's like the beautiful thing about film is that. That it's able to extract that from all of us and from creators. But again, what your model is so uniquely done is it kind of does take a little bit of that, like what can be painful is getting feedback, and like bring in this idea that like, no, like feedback is going to make your idea better. It's going to make the film more creative. It's going to make it more liked. It's create more emotion if you just talk to people about it. And it's very hard to take feedback on almost anything. Almost everybody has a problem taking feedback, especially people making films or doing something that they feel is deeply creative. So it's really this total, it seems so simple and kind of obvious, but it's also this really fundamental shift. It's completely disruptive to how this medium is made and created. And everyone in the world cares about, everyone in the world likes to see movies. Everyone watches some sort of content, right? So now you've really just completely upended and flipped the way that people create this content and then how they consume it. And it's having this huge effect to the point of 1.5 million guild members and these box office successes of hundreds of millions of dollars. And you're doing it again and again and again in this almost systematic way, which hasn't really been done in Hollywood before.
Yeah, well, we were at the sketch premiere, and we did the sketch premiere in LA, and there were some old time like reporters and things that showed up, and they said, "This feels like old time Hollywood."
Why is that?
Event. They were saying that between the guild, like there were like 1,000 people at the premiere. Guild members were showing up in droves, and then the talent showed up, and the energy that was there, and the excitement for what was happening was there. They're just like, we haven't felt this kind of spark at a premiere in a long time. And so they didn't have the technology in the early days of Hollywood that we do today, right, to do what Angel's doing. But I mean, that's the reason that place became like the cultural mecca of the world, and that it exported storytelling to everywhere else in the world, is because at one point they did have that magic. There was that soul in the projects. There still is. Like, there are projects that come out of there that have some soul to them. But all we're doing is using modern technology and helping a community change the media industry to go back to what it was and even be better. And it's super exciting. It's not that complicated. It's not rocket science. But people, like when I see guild members, I've traveled all over the country over the last year, doing like meeting with investors. And as I do, I'll stop and have dinner or lunch or breakfast with a guild member. And when I see the excitement, the hope in their eyes, I'm just like, you know what? This is a pretty great thing to wear our lives out on. And it's totally worth it. Totally worth it.
What is the future of Angel? Where are you going?
We are right at the door of AMGX trading on the stock market. And this is going to be an important day for Angel's named after all those people who saved our company. And we have over 30,000 investors in Angel and over 100,000 investors in Angel's projects. So I don't know of another uplist to a major stock exchange that has this many retail investors in all of history. And the AMGX will be a symbol of this movement, what it means. It'll be a celebratory moment for all of the guild members and the people who've invested in Angel. As founders, we're not going to be selling for at least the first year. So we're in this for the long haul. And as we got through that settlement process with Disney, we agreed to a 14-year agreement that our stock had to be pledged to get that done. And so we're about solving this long term, and for us, starting to trade on in the biggest stock market in the world is just the starting line, to be honest. Like, yeah, I aged a lot. Yeah.
You look good.
We've done a lot, but we're 1.5 million guild members, and Netflix is 300 million subscribers, and the market is going to almost $1 trillion by 2034. And we have a better way to approach the market. And so we just need to scale. And the public markets are going to help us do that. And they're going to give the chance for all of our followers to celebrate what this movement has become and how it's growing.
Once you go public and you get this infusion of cash and new investors that come in, what are you going to do with that investment? And, what should we expect to see coming out of Angel over the next 6, 12, 24 months?
So we're going to use the capital that we've raised in this process to grow the guild to 5 million guild members. And then from there to 10, we've actually done something unique inside of Angel where we call it the founder's plan internally. In our docs, it's called the performance bonus plan. And essentially, it's kind of like what Elon Musk did with Tesla, where he said, I'm going to make you so much money that you're not going to care about giving me another 10% of the company. We have the same kind of a plan, except instead of it all going to Elon, it's going to our team based on a merit system that we've set up. We set this up in 2023, and we've seen huge innovations from our team. It's so exciting, actually, to see the level of innovation that's happening at Angel and creativity. And so that plan is structured to take us to 10 billion. And then our intention is to go and one up that and go from 10 to 100. So, and this isn't, those numbers are important to Angel and its mission, because as an independent tech and media, we're not a studio per se, because we don't make movies. We're a community that's facilitated by this technology and marketing. But for us to reach that market cap, that ensures, and be a very profitable company, that ensures that the guild's decisions reign supreme. Like if we just turn this into something where we get picked up by a bigger entity, by an Amazon or an Apple or something like that, then how will we ensure that the guild gets to make the decisions for the future? And so our goal is to make sure that the guild is the ultimate decision maker for Angel to be an incredibly profitable media company and platform, and hopefully we'll make the world a little bit of better place
more light
for our grandchildren. Yeah.
What's more stressful, running an entertainment company or having 10 children?
I'm thinking of Trisha, and how she would answer this question, because she's been as integral to the starting of Angel as anyone. She's a real adventurous companion. But definitely, we have nights where we're up at night and we're worried about one of our children, and we have nights when we're up worried about the company, and they're interrelated. We want them to be to magnify each other. That's our goal, is that Angel will be a blessing to our family, not a distraction, and that our family will be a blessing to Angel, and not a distraction. But I think that family and concerns over our children are definitely what eat at our souls at a higher level. Like what happens at Angel isn't as important as what happens in our family for us. That's our own personal worldview. And so, but if I'm honest, am I up more at night over Angel stuff? Probably. Is Trisha up more at night over family stuff than Angel stuff? Yeah. And that's kind of how we split
tag team it.
Yep.
Did you have a conversation with Elon 15 years ago about the sort of population collapse that led to this, or because you seem to be way ahead of some of these things that we're
working hard
being talked about a lot.
Sustain the Social Security system. Elon and I just approach it in different ways. So. No, but funny enough, we're doing a Tuttle Twins episode on population, and it's going to be really fun.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's this famous, is it Captain Planet clip? Have you seen that, where they talk? This is when we were kids. This was one of my favorite cartoons, and and there's this clip about, hey, you don't they literally say don't have kids. You can be. Everyone's family. You don't need a family. And I saw it recently, and I was just I watched that. That. I mean, I love that show. And, it's just so different, I think, now, the way people sort of see what's happening. And a lot of that, anyways, you're doing your part to, as you say, to.
Oh, and any, yeah, you're a father. Or did you get to be
I mean,
there
only 4.
Yeah, but did you get to be there for any of the births?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so that
One time I had to be woken up, but otherwise I was there.
there's not I can't recreate the feeling of a child coming into the world. I can't recreate that. That's a feeling that unless somebody's experienced it, they don't understand. They don't understand.
Better than having a
That's what this is about.
Better than having a successful startup.
Yeah, that is what all of this is about.
Outside of family, who is the human being you most admire?
Oh, Jesus. But he's half human. So, great question. Living or dead?
Doesn't matter.
I feel close to Washington because my mom, she said she felt like I should have been born. That the doctor like induced me because he wanted to go golfing, but she felt like I should have been born on February 22nd. And when I learn about him and his stature and the impact that he had on the future of our country by giving up the reins of government when he could have been a king if he wanted to. And then the way, there was one time when the generals all were essentially saying that the military should take over the government, and Washington pulls out his glasses trying to read them his thoughts, and he couldn't even see, and he just basically says, "I've lost my sight trying to make this happen." It just humbled everybody. And I don't know that the country could have gotten off to a start there. I feel close to him because my mom always talked about that connection. And then I also aspire to that kind of a transition of power at Angel, that not only do I transition it to the next CEO of Angel, but that we transition it from the founders to the community of the future, that Angel can be something that outlives us. So I'd love to meet him. I'd love for him to learn from his wisdom and ask him some questions about that. So take that from what you will.
Your best advice for overcoming hard things?
Don't give up. You've never failed until you quit. There's no exception to that. As long as you keep going, you will succeed. Period.
What accomplishment are you most proud of?
Marrying Trisha and having 10 children.
How do you measure your life?
If our children have a relationship where they can speak to their Father in heaven, not just me, but also Father in heaven, and feel like they can hear his voice and feel his love, then they'll do amazing things, and that will be a successful life for me, is I can pass that feeling and that experience that I have that sustains me through everything, that I can pass that to my family, and that would be success.
If when you die you meet God, what do you hope he says to you?
I don't think he'll need to say anything. Just to see him and have his eyes be pleased is enough.
Neal, appreciate you. Thank you.
Divot.
On next week's episode.
They attract others to their ideas. People want their input and feedback, and therefore they can do much more than just what their individual job description is.